All right, let's just jump right in. We tend to think about history in terms of big wars and dusty treaties, but sometimes the biggest changes come from concrete and steel. We're going to look at this really specific 3-year window from 1924 to 1926. This is when a 10-year-old piece of engineering, the Panama Canal, really came of age. And in doing so, it basically redrew the map for the entire 20th century.
So, to really wrap our heads around this, you've got to stop thinking of the canal as just a ditch with water in it. Picture it more like a living thing. By the mid-1920s, it was kind of like a teenager. It had been around for a decade, so it knew it was powerful, but it was only just starting to figure out its place in a world that was suddenly moving a whole lot faster. And what a world it was. I mean, the Roaring Twenties were in full swing. The Great War was over. You can see on the timeline here, everything was aligning. In 24, the US recognizes the Soviet Union. Boom, new trade routes. In 25, you've got treaties in Europe stabilizing commerce. By 26, the American economy is just on fire. The stage was perfectly set for this concrete giant to finally wake up. Okay, so the world is ready to trade, and the canal has to find its rhythm. And it wasn't just about letting a few ships pass through. No, this was about orchestrating a whole new, incredibly complex symphony of global commerce. And to see just how loud that symphony got, let's dig into the numbers.
Here it is, the headline number. In just a single year, the sheer weight of stuff, cargo, passing through the canal jumped by almost 10%. Now that is a staggering increase. It tells you two things. Not only were there way more ships, but the ships themselves were becoming these massive floating giants packed to the gills with the raw materials of a new industrial age.
And this chart right here, it proves that was no fluke. Just look at that relentless climb upwards. We go from just under 24 million tons in 1924 to over 28 million just 2 years later. This wasn't just growth. This was an absolute explosion. The canal was fast becoming the world's most critical artery.
You know what I love about this is the metaphor it uses. The canal is a DJ, and these years were when it found the perfect beat. It was mixing all these different frequencies of world trade. You had steel coming from America, raw materials from Asia, just pure ambition from everyone. And it was mixing it all into one powerful rhythm that would define global trade for decades to come.
So who were the dancers in this aquatic ballet, right? Which countries were taking the lead on this incredible new world stage? Well, the answer paints a really fascinating picture of an emerging new world order. This is just such a great way to picture it. It really was an aquatic ballet. You had the big, robust American ships, the cowboys, hauling oil from Texas over to California. Then the elegant British steamers, kind of like Victorian dames, cutting their journey to Australia nearly in half. And then you get the surprise players, Norwegian ships, these 20th century Vikings, specializing in things like timber and fish. And this chart breaks it all down perfectly. I mean, there's no question, the United States was the superpower here, accounting for 42% of all traffic. But the British Empire was still a massive force at 23%. But what's really fascinating to me is seeing Japan and a recovering Germany already staking their claim on this new global highway. So the big question is, what were they all carrying? Well, if the canal was the world's heart, then this was the lifeblood it was pumping. Oil, black gold, flowing from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Agricultural goods, the vitamins for a growing world, flowing from South America to Europe and Asia. And then manufactured goods, the pulse of industry, flowing right back the other way. It was a true circulatory system for a brand new global economy. But history isn't just about tonnage and trade routes. It's about people. Every single ship that passed through those locks carried hundreds of individual stories. So let's zoom in, away from the global view for a second, and look through the portholes at the actual lives in transit. This quote just says it all. It's from a passenger, an Austro-Hungarian aristocrat, and she just nailed it. For so many people, this 8-hour journey through a canal was the dividing line between an old life they were leaving behind and a completely new one they were sailing towards. And here are just 3 of those stories. You've got Countess Maria escaping a collapsing Europe under a fake name to start fresh in Chile. You have Akira Yamamoto, a Japanese inventor, who has a chance 8-hour conversation on deck with an American businessman. That conversation turns into a multi-million-dollar company. And you even have a couple who got married right in the Gatun locks, literally between worlds. See, the canal wasn't just a shortcut. It was a catalyst for real human change. So we've seen the economic boom, we've seen the human stories, but the canal's biggest impact, arguably, was how it totally changed our ideas about time, distance, and even geopolitical power. It literally shrank the planet. Let's get really specific with an example. Take a look at shipping Brazilian coffee to Japan. Before the Panama Canal, that journey was this massive, incredibly expensive trip all the way around the tip of South America. After the canal, the entire equation of global trade changed. It wasn't just a little bit cheaper, it was a fundamental shift in what was even possible. And here it is, side by side. 65 days versus 42. That's 23 days of savings, 23 fewer days of paying crew salaries, burning fuel, and taking on risk. The math worked out that for every $1 a company spent on tolls to use the canal, it generated about $4.50 in savings for the global economy. It paid for itself many, many times over, not just for the US, but for the whole world. And of course, this had huge geopolitical consequences. The US essentially became the sheriff of the most important intersection on Earth. But look at the ripple effects. Chile's nitrate industry suddenly boomed because they could reach the Asian market. Australia saw its trade jump by 23%. And Japan became the new hub for South American goods heading to the rest of Asia. The canal was redrawing the lines of power in real time. And this, right here, might be the ultimate proof of its influence. The canal was so important, so central, it created a whole new standard in shipbuilding, Panamax. Think about that. If you wanted to play in the new global economy, your ship literally had to be built to fit through these locks. This one piece of engineering in Central America was dictating the design of ships being built in Scotland, Japan, and Germany. That's power. So, what's the big idea here? What's the takeaway from all this? I think this slide puts it perfectly. In a way, the Panama Canal was humanity's very first orbital station. No, it didn't orbit in space. It was fixed right there in the ocean. But its function was basically the same. It connected different worlds, Europe, America, Asia, that had once seemed as distant from each other as different planets. In the end, those 3 short years proved something really profound. They showed that with enough concrete, steel, and ambition, we could actually reshape geography itself. The canal turned oceans that were once barriers into highways. It took the first giant leap toward the truly interconnected, globalized world we all live in today. And the question that leaves us with is, what's the Panama Canal of our generation?